Hey Jimmy, having had COVID-19, were there any extra tests or anything different you had to go through, to your knowledge, to get approved for this fight?
No, I had it way back in end of March, so I don't think there was. I just went through the same COVID testing that everybody's been going through and coming up negative because I had it so long ago. Besides that, that's it.
I mean, being one of the athletes in our sport to have gone through it, I mean, can you just describe what is it like? Because I think, for a lot of people, it's still just this big thing. So can you just shed some light on what was your experience recovering from it?
Um, you know, Basically, I had 3 bad days. The first day I had like a backache, fever on and off. I was just super tired, super fatigued. And then the second day I went into it, just had a backache and fever on and off. And then the third day I just had a backache. And by the fourth day I was fine. I did have like a little bit of like a wet cough, nothing too bad. But I felt shitty for 3 days. And after the third day I was fine and felt great. And then I spoke to my doctor about it. He's like, just take Tylenol for the fever, a lot of vitamin C. And from there I was like, after I started feeling really good, I was like, all right, when am I not contagious? And he was like, 14 days without symptoms. So I was like, all right, great. So I'll just stay quarantined for the 14 days. And after I'm done being quarantined, I'll be able to step out and do what I had to. So it was from end of March to beginning of April pretty much. And then that was it. So it wasn't too bad, but also at the same time, I'm a professional athlete. I eat right and I work out a lot. So up until those bad days, I was working out, just running outside and lifting and what I could do. So, when it came down to being sick, I don't think it was that bad for me, just the fact that I do take care of myself in and out of the octagon and all the time.
Final one from me. You fought a lot of these guys in the title picture now, Pewter, Marlon, Aljo. I mean, from your experience, who do you think is the guy to come out on top out of those three?
I think Jan matches up pretty well against a lot of the guys, except I feel like, to be honest with me, I went into that fight with Jan and I lost about 15 minutes, and I just learned the hard way on, if you're up in the round, you can't just kind of coast towards the end, which I did. And I've usually done in the previous fights. You got to fight all the way to the bell. So it was a hard lesson learned with Jan, but a lesson learned. I think Jan, whoever he does fight next, it's going to do really well until I get a rematch with him.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Next up, we have Damon Martin from MMA Fighting.
Hey, Jimmy, I know this was kind of a weird one coming together because you tried to get the Frankie Edgar fight, and then obviously that didn't happen, and then you move on to Cody Stamann, and I know Cody said you guys were probably going to fight in August, but kind of walk me through the particulars. Were you disappointed you didn't get Frankie? Were you ultimately happy you got, Cody?
I'm just happy to get back in there to fight. I mean, I would love to get that Frankie fight, but it was something that I guess Frankie wanted to stay with Pedro, and they saw that they pushed the fight back. I would have loved to do that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're fighting on the catch weight of Cody Stamann line, so it's nice not to have to cut so much weight as well. But it was just good to get back in there and get back into the octagon and fight.
I know, as you talked about, as a guy who went through COVID-19, I know you mentioned your wife in the interview you did before. Your wife had obviously a little tougher time with it with her immune system. We've seen, COVID-19 kind of become a politicized issue, even in the fight community. You've seen it with, Brendan Schaub and some other guys out there talking. As a guy who lived through it and a guy who went through it, especially someone with your wife, I mean, does it make you angry? Do you get kind of upset when you see, so many people trying to put opinions on, wearing masks, not wearing masks, the COVID-19 shouldn't affect athletes, like all this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'm at a certain point where, if you're high risk, stay home. If you're scared of it, stay home. But if people want to go out, what are the risk of it? Let them go out. Let them do whatever. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You got people that wear masks, and depending on what mask you're wearing, a cloth over your face is not really going to stop you from getting it. Just taking care of yourself in case you do get it, and wash your hands are the basic things. I've seen and I researched a lot of the doctors I've seen and researched and talked about it. The best prevention of it is just taking care of yourself, eating right and working out. And you can, had it and I only had it for a couple of days and I recovered quick. But if you are high risk, those are the people, high risk and elderly people are who they affect. So that's where you got to be really cautious and be very careful. So if you have someone at home that's high risk, or you are yourself, then be smart about what your decisions and what you're going to do. I mean, that's pretty much all you can do. It's tough. Hopefully, there's strands are coming out not as strong as the initial strand. Well, hopefully people can get through it, and those people at high risk or elderly be able to get through it as well. I'm at a point, man. Like, I think just let's open everything up and let's get going. You know what I mean? And if you're scared of it, stay home. And what I feel like people and governors and the government should do is just get a plan for people that want to stay home, that are high risk, that fall on high risk or elderly. Get a plan for them to help them out, because those are the people going to need the most. But let everybody else kind of go back to their normal routine.
And with that being said, Jimmy, you mentioned the Peter Yan fight, and I don't want to take the attention away from Cody Stamann, but when you look at Peter Yan and his career in the UFC, he's pretty much dominated everybody except you. You were the guy who gave him his toughest fight. When you see him go out there and win the title the way he did and put on such an impressive performance against a guy like Jose Aldo, does that just motivate you even more to get back into that title race, knowing how close you came to, beating a guy like that?
Yeah, it does. It really does. I see a lot of people say different things, but I think I gave Jan his toughest fight, and just the fact that I knew it was up in the first and second round and I wanted to coast was a hard lesson learned. And I didn't make that mistake going into the third round. And it's just, it's definitely big motivation, definitely to get back in there and just to fight, and obviously taking a fight last minute to fill up a spot and help the UFC out. So I'm looking forward to it and just getting back in, and grateful that UFC gave me this opportunity.
And last question, when you look at the guys you've lost to in the UFC, it's literally the guys at the exact top of the division. It's Marlon, Aljo, and Peter Yan. Obviously, Cody Stamann's a super, super tough guy, but would you put him on that same level? Do you consider him, one of the best guys in the world, or do you feel like this is a fight you should go out and dominate?
I think this is a fight I should go out and and do really well. I don't say dominate, I mean, it sounds a little cocky, but I should just do really well. It's, I guess in a way it's tough. A lot of factors always come in. First of all, like people always say, like, it's MMA, so anything could happen too. But the second thing is, like, one of the biggest factors I think is that you train for someone for like a month or 2 months straight of their style and what they're going to do. So there was really no training for this. I took the fight on Monday night, the contract Tuesday, left 2 days later to Vegas and then Abu Dhabi. So I want to say I should do really well in the fight. I'm just looking to, put on a war and put on a fight for the fans, to be honest with you. My only worry of outcome is, getting my hand raised, getting the W at the end. But always hoping to get the finish, whether it's a submission or a knockout or a TKO or something like that. But I don't really think I don't, I just going with the flow and see what happens.
Thanks, Jimmy.